My wife sent me a text message. It said, "I want a divorce. All communication must go through my lawyer." I replied with a single word, "Understood." Then I canceled her credit cards and stopped sending her any money. 3 days later, her lawyer was calling my phone in a panic. I am a 42-year-old man. I am still trying to make sense of everything. Mostly, I feel like I am on autopilot. I feel strangely calm. 3 days ago, on a Tuesday afternoon, I was focused on a spreadsheet for work. My phone buzzed. It was a message from my wife, Olivia. She is 39. The text was short and cruel. "Ethan, I want a divorce. Please direct all future communication through my lawyer, Mr. Peterson. His contact details will follow." 15 years of marriage were over. She ended it with a text message. There was no warning. We had eaten dinner together the night before. We talked about our plans for the weekend. Everything seemed normal. Nothing hinted that this was coming. I stared at the screen for about 5 minutes. I felt shock, hurt, and anger all bubbling under the surface. But on the outside, I felt a cold sense of clarity. She had set the rules. Lawyers only. Okay. My reply was simple. Understood. After that, practical thoughts took over. If we were only using legal channels, then all of our informal marriage agreements were now finished. We had always kept most of our finances in separate accounts for daily expenses. I learned that lesson from watching my parents' difficult divorce. She had her own personal account. I had mine. Then there were the credit cards. Olivia had extra cards that were connected to my accounts. She was not a joint owner. She was just an authorized user. I gave her that permission. I opened my banking apps. I clicked a few buttons. The cards were canceled. I reported that the user was no longer authorized. It was done. I also gave her a monthly allowance. I transferred a set amount of money to her personal account for her to spend as she pleased. I logged into my bank's website. I canceled the automatic transfer. It was effective immediately. We had shared subscriptions, like Netflix and Amazon Prime. They were all under my name. I logged into each service. I signed out all other devices and changed the passwords. If she wanted to watch streaming shows, she would have to buy her own subscription. The car she drove was leased in my name. The insurance was also in my name. I did not cancel the insurance right away. That would be too dangerous for other people on the road. But I made a note to talk to my lawyer about transferring the lease as soon as possible. The gas card for that car was tied to one of the credit cards I had just canceled. It was useless now. The whole process took about 30 minutes. This was not about revenge. This was about accepting the new situation she had created. She had drawn a line in the sand. Lawyers only. Fine with me. Lawyers work with formal agreements. They do not work based on the assumptions of a marriage that she had just ended. Her lawyer's contact information arrived in an email an hour later. I forwarded it directly to Ms. Qley. She was a top divorce lawyer that a coworker had recommended. I sent Ms. Qley an email. Received text demanding divorce, lawyers only. Complied. Need immediate counsel on next steps. Asset protection. Advise retainer. I finished my work for the day. I went home. The house was empty. She must have packed her things while I was at the office. I slept surprisingly well that night. Now, fast forward 72 hours. It was Friday afternoon. A number I did not recognize was calling my phone. I had a feeling I knew who it was. "Hello. Is this Ethan?" A sharp, impatient voice asked. "This is he. This is Mr. Peterson. I represent Olivia. My client is experiencing some difficulties." "Okay," I said, keeping my voice even. "Her cards have been declined. Her funds were cut off without notice. This is highly unusual, Mr. Ethan. The financial status quo is generally maintained during a separation." He continued. "Mr. Peterson," I said calmly. "My wife sent me a text on Tuesday demanding a divorce. She stated that all communication must go through you. I acknowledged her message, and I have followed her instructions. Our informal financial arrangement has ended. Any future support will need to be discussed formally and legally through you and my lawyer, Miss Qley, whom I am hiring." There was a pause. I could hear papers shuffling on his end. "She needs funds now. For necessities. For a place to stay." "A place to stay?" I asked, genuinely surprised. "Where is she?" "That is not relevant. You acted in bad faith by cutting her off without any warning. My voice became cooler. Mr. Peterson, my wife ended our marriage by text message. She set the lawyer's only rule. She is the one who ended our status of trust and communication. Financial support will now be determined by the law, not by panicked phone calls, because a credit card was declined, a card she was never the primary owner of. There was a longer pause. My client is seeking emergency financial relief, he said stiffly. That is her right, I replied. Please direct all legal filings to my attorney, Miss Cole. Do you have her contact information? Yes, he snapped. Excellent. Then this conversation is over, according to my wife's directive. Good day. I hung up the phone. My heart was pounding now. The adrenaline was finally kicking in. But I also felt like my actions were justified. She wanted things to be cold and legal. She was getting exactly what she asked for. Now I was just waiting for Ms. Cole to call me back. This was only the beginning. Update 1. 1 week later. It has been a week since she sent the text. Things have gotten more intense, just as I thought they would. Thanks to everyone for the comments and messages. It is good to know I am not crazy. Miss Cole called me back the same day Mr. Peterson did. She is very good. She confirmed that my actions were logical, considering Olivia's text message. She advised me to document everything that happened. Mr. Peterson made his first move on Monday. He sent a formal request for emergency temporary spousal support. He also requested that Olivia have exclusive use of our marital home. This was funny, since she had already left it. The amount of money he asked for was huge. He basically wanted me to pay for her old lifestyle, plus a new place to live, plus her legal fees. Her sense of entitlement was at an expert level.
Ms.
Cole sent a response. She countered with a much lower offer for temporary support. It was based on what Olivia actually needed, not what she wanted. She noted that Olivia had left the home that I was still living in. She also pointed out that Olivia's lawyers only rule was the direct cause of my actions. Then the personal attack started. Olivia's best friend, Haley, called me on Wednesday night. I answered the phone, hoping to get some information. That was a mistake. Ethan, what is wrong with you? Hello, Haley, I said in a tired voice. Don't you hello Haley me. Olivia is sleeping on my couch. You cut her off completely. She couldn't even buy groceries. You made her homeless. Haley. Olivia demanded a divorce through a text message. She said lawyers only. I am just respecting her wishes. You know she barely works. How is she supposed to live? She is terrified. Olivia had a part-time job as a graphic designer. She earned enough to maybe afford a couch for 1 month. Before this, her income was just fun money. She hired a lawyer before she even talked to me about any problems. I told her lawyer that all financial matters will go through him and my lawyer. That is the process she chose. This is cruel and vengeful after 15 years, Haley said. She was emotional. She made a mistake. Instructing me to only talk to her lawyer is a very specific mistake. Haley, was hiring Mr. Peterson also a mistake? There was silence. Then she said, she deserves your support. You always took care of her. And I would have been willing to discuss things in a friendly way, I said. But she destroyed our marriage with a text message and hired a lawyer. She set the rules. We all have to follow them now? She'll take you for everything you have. Haley spat. She can try, I said calmly. Everything will be filed legally. My attorney is handling it. I am not discussing this with you anymore. Goodbye. I hung up. So now, I am the bad guy for following her instructions. The story she is telling everyone makes her sound like a pure victim. I also got an alert from my bank yesterday. Someone had tried to withdraw money from an old savings account. It turned out there was one joint account we had opened a long time ago. We had both completely forgotten about it. It was not part of our active finances. It only had about $500 in it. Olivia must have found the old debit card and tried to take all the money out. The bank flagged the sudden activity on an account that had not been used for years. I went to the bank right away. I explained the situation with the pending divorce. They froze the account until a legal agreement could be reached. This was not about the money. It was about the fact that she tried to do it. While her lawyer was screaming at me about acting in bad faith, she was doing this. Ms. Qley says this actually helps our case. It shows that Olivia is not just waiting for the legal process. She is actively trying to get money through back channels, outside of the process she demanded. Now we wait for the court date for the emergency support hearing. Olivia is still staying on Haley's couch. Mr. Peterson must be starting to realize that his client expected a blank check from me, not a dose of reality. I am feeling less shocked now. I am feeling more of a grim determination. This is going to be a long and difficult process. Update 2. 3 weeks later. Okay, things got even uglier. I know, what a surprise. We had the emergency support hearing last week. Olivia was there. She looked stressed out. She would not look at me. Mr. Peterson argued that she was broke, and that my malicious actions had victimized her. Ms. Qley calmly presented the evidence. She showed the judge the text message where Olivia started the lawyers only rule. She had bank statements that proved I canceled the supplementary cards and the allowance only after I received that text. She had proof that I was still paying the mortgage, the utilities, the car lease, and the insurance. All the major fixed costs were being handled by me. She also had evidence of Olivia's attempt to drain the forgotten joint account after demanding to use lawyers. Her income records showed that her part-time job earned her some money. It proved she was not completely broke. She was just missing the extra spending money I used to give her. The judge was not impressed with Mr. Peterson's drama. He asked Olivia why she had not discussed any of this with me before sending the text. She mumbled something about being intimidated. I am not an intimidating person, and the judge seemed to doubt her story. The result was that the judge ordered me to pay temporary support. But the amount was much closer to our offer than to theirs. It was enough for her to cover her basic needs and contribute to her legal fees. But it was not enough to fund her old lifestyle. The judge basically told Olivia that her own actions, like the text message and the attempt to drain the account, had helped create her current situation. I felt like I had dodged a bullet. But they were not finished yet. This week, the real games began. The first dirty trick was a call to my job's HR department. Someone made an anonymous complaint. They claimed I was misusing company resources for my personal legal issues. This was false. I only used my personal devices in my own time. The complaint also suggested I was showing erratic behavior and was unstable. Thankfully, my boss knows me well. The complaint had no specific details. HR checked the company's computer logs and found nothing. I had a quick chat with my boss, calmly explained the basics of what was happening, and the complaint was dismissed. It was a clear attempt to cause trouble for me at my job. It was a low blow. Ms. Qley made a note of it. It is hard to prove who made an anonymous call, but it adds to a pattern of behavior. The second dirty trick was a phone call from Olivia's mother. She was crying. She accused me of horrible things. How could you do this to her? She's struggling so much. The judge was unfair. You need to give her more money. Think of the years she gave you. I gave her the same response. Olivia chose this path. The lawyers are handling all financial matters, just as she requested. I cannot discuss it with you. She called me heartless and hung up. They were using relentless emotional manipulation. They really thought I would just keep paying for everything forever. My response to all of this was to stick to logic, even under fire. Their tactics made the situation even clearer to me. It was not enough to just react to what they were doing. I needed to be proactive. I had to secure my legal position and shut down any way they could manipulate me. I had to do everything strictly by the book. The car. Ms. Qley sent Mr. Peterson a letter. It stated that temporary support was now established. Olivia needed to handle the car situation herself. She could either take over the lease, if she could qualify, or she could return the car. I stopped making payments on it. The insurance coverage, which I had continued to pay, would also stop in 30 days. It was now her problem to solve within the legal process. The house. I filed for formal exclusive use of the house, since she had left it and the judge had not granted it to her. I also started the process of getting the house valued, so we could either sell it or I could buy her out. A buyout was unlikely, given her financial situation. I was establishing clear legal control, asset division. I pushed for an immediate and full financial discovery. This means both sides have to show all of their financial information. I suspected she was hiding assets. Now, it was time for complete transparency, as required by law. Hiding things in court leads to trouble. Documenting harassment. I logged every single manipulative phone call. I documented the complaint at my work. I wrote down the dates, the times, and a summary of what happened. Ms. Cole said this pattern of bad faith tactics can influence the final settlement and who has to pay the legal fees. This is not about getting revenge. It is about carefully managing the situation within the legal boundaries she established. This became even more important now that they were using underhanded tactics. The complaint to my work crossed a line. It made me realize that I needed to take firm, decisive legal steps. Olivia texted me directly yesterday. She broke her own rule. "Ethan, you can't take the car. How will I get anywhere? Please, just stop all of this." I took a screenshot of the text. I sent it to Ms. Cole. I replied to Olivia, "Per your instructions on have date, all communication is to be through our lawyers. Please contact Mr. Peterson." She did not reply. Final update. 6 months later. It has been about 7 months since she sent that text. The divorce was finalized last month. It feels like a lifetime ago. It is time for the final update. The last 6 months were like a war fought in legal trenches. Mr. Peterson tried to delay everything. Olivia played the victim. She rejected every reasonable offer we made. The car was a major fight. She could not qualify to take over the lease herself. She also refused to return it. Mr. Peterson argued that it was a necessity for her. Ms. Cole countered that the temporary support she was receiving was enough to cover basic transportation. The deadline passed. I informed the leasing company that I was no longer paying for the car and that she was not an authorized driver. The car was repossessed from the street outside Haley's house. I received frantic calls from Haley and Olivia's mom. I ignored them and forwarded the messages to Ms. Cole. Olivia was furious, but she was legally trapped by the results of her own failure to act. For the house, I got the exclusive use order. I sold it fairly quickly. The money from the sale was held by a neutral third party until the division was decided. Olivia fought for a larger share. She claimed she was at an economic disadvantage. The financial discovery was the real key. We pushed hard for it, and Olivia had to disclose all her finances. It turned out she had a separate savings account. Her parents had been contributing to it for years. She also had some inherited stocks that she claimed she forgot about. It was not a huge amount of money, but it was much more than the $500 in that dormant joint account. Mr. Peterson argued it was her separate property. But Ms. Cole proved that some marital funds had been mixed in with it, and that our marital funds had allowed her to keep that money untouched. As for the anonymous complaint at my job, we had no direct proof it was her. But the judge noted its timing and nature during the final proceedings. I did not win any damages for it, but it added to the picture of her bad faith actions. The final settlement. We settled just before we were scheduled to go to a contested trial. In pre-trial meetings, the judge had shown that he was losing patience with Olivia's tactics. Facing a potentially worse outcome in court, and the possibility of having to pay my legal fees, Olivia finally agreed to settle. The assets, including the money from the house sale, were split nearly $50-50. I got a slight advantage because her hidden assets were factored in. The stocks were divided as marital property. She was allowed to keep her small personal savings account. Spousal support was limited to 2 years. It is what is known as rehabilitative alimony. It is meant to help her transition and get back on her feet, not to fund her old lifestyle. The payments depend on her making an effort to become self-supporting. For legal fees, we each paid our own. That was a win. It meant I did not have to spend more time and money fighting to make her pay for my lawyer. The aftermath. I have heard indirectly that Olivia is living in a small apartment. She is working more and complaining about not having enough money. Haley seems to have distanced herself from Olivia after she became too much of a burden. Her parents are likely still helping her financially. Has she shown any remorse? Has she apologized? Not at all. She still seems confused that I did not just continue to fund her life after she blew everything up. Her sense of entitlement is very deep. She genuinely believed she was owed her lifestyle, no matter what she did. These 7 months were rough. They were expensive and stressful. But I am good now. I am better, actually. The peace that comes from closing that chapter of my life is huge. I kept my job and my integrity. I got a fair share of our assets. I learned that I can handle a crisis with a calm and strategic mind. I am going to the gym and seeing friends that Olivia never liked. I am enjoying my quiet house. There was no big, Hollywood-style revenge. There was just the steady, grinding result of her own choices meeting logical, legal resistance. She wanted everything to be formal and legal. She got it, along with all the cold, financial reality that comes with it. That is satisfaction enough for me. Thank you for giving me a space to write all this out. It helped more than you know. It is time to move forward.